Yeah, record.
All right, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It's a beautiful day out there today. It's going to be 70 degrees out there, so it's a good day to get out there and prospect, you know. So I just want to remind those who are in our session this morning that we are having a commercial class, a series of 6 classes that's going to be hosted by the home office, Coldwell Banker home office. The email has already gone out, but we're going to send, I think, 4 more reminders. So if you're interested in learning about commercial real estate, please email me, because I have to email the list of interested agents to the home office, and then they're going to send you the registration and the link for it and stuff. So if you're interested and you haven't emailed me, please do so. Okay.
Can I ask you something before you stop? Is there a fee for that, for the class?
No.
No, it's absolutely
It's free.
free for you, Catherine.
Okay, well, I have taken commercial there with what's his name, Franco. I would like to redo it over. So, you know.
No, this is, so just so you know, usually these classes are conducted for Coldwell Banker in its entirety, but we were able to get, his name is Josh. We're able to get him to do a series of classes just for our brokerage. So it's a very good class that he's going to be doing a Q&A afterwards too. So it's a good time to utilize you know, everything that they're going to teach and stuff. And you can also ask questions and that pertains to what you want to learn and stuff. So and it's free. So no, you don't have to pay for it. Okay.
Yeah, Catherine. Catherine is a very valuable the class for you to take, because in addition to that, after you take the class, you'll be certified as a Coldwell Banker commercial agent, where you can use a lot of those the tools in the commercial you know, commercial real estate area. So it's very good, and I encourage all the agents to take it.
Okay, can you put my name down on that too, and send me the information when the classes start?
I will. Catherine, just so I don't forget, can you email me? Just say I'm interested in the commercial classes.
Okay, I will. Okay, no problem.
And just to end this topic, because we do have to go forward, these commercial classes are good for agents that are barely going to tap into commercial real estate, because it's going to start from the beginning. So, so it's an entry. The first session is going to be like the entry level for commercial and stuff. So if you're afraid or you're fear because you don't know commercial, this is the best opportunity for you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. So moving forward, let's keep all our questions to the very end. Either put it in the chat box or just write down on some notes, and that way we can get through the whole training swiftly. We do have John Wax coming in for 10 minutes, right around 10:30. He's going to go over free flood certs for residential leases. Okay. And then we'll just answer all the questions at that time afterwards. Okay. One of the forms that we're going to be going over pertains to a 1031 exchange. Most of you are familiar with a 1031, but for those of you that are not familiar with a 1031, it basically allows a homeowner to defer capital gains or related income from the sale of their investment property in exchange for another property. So that's basically what a 1031 does. Okay. Also, Michelle sent me a link for a pamphlet that goes over a 1031 exchange in California. I believe it's for California, right, Michelle?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to send that link out for alongside with the this recording after the session's completed. So any agent that wants to familiarize themselves with a 1031 exchange, it's a good article. It's a pamphlet. You guys can read it. You can save it. It's a PDF. Okay. Or you can save it as a PDF for future reference as well. Now, this is just for your knowledge, so you can have some sort of knowledge regarding a 1031 exchange. But remember, when dealing with the 1031 exchange, you should always refer them to a professional attorney or accommodator that's more qualified to advise them and guide them through a 1031 exchange. So the link is not for you to learn so you can advise your clients. It's just so you can have some knowledge about it. But you should always refer them to someone that's better qualified to guide them through that process, because they can have huge implications if they do it incorrectly and stuff. Okay. All right. So moving on, we're going to go on to the first form, which is the seller's intent to exchange addendum. It's also referred to as Form SXA. This form was created for a listing agent to use when a seller intends to exchange the subject property through a 1031 exchange. So when you're at the time of listing, you should have this form filled out, included in your transaction. Okay. Some of the form you can fill out yourself, as you know, the information up on top pertaining to the property. But some of the portion of the form you should have the seller fill it out themselves. Okay. It describes it in detail, and then they can make their decision on which box to check or how they want to move forward. Okay. A lot of times the agents will use an addendum or put in the RPA that the seller's intends to do a 1031 exchange. But this is the proper way to do it, using this form rather than doing it on an addendum and stuff. Okay. So we'll go into it a little bit. Section number 1 basically just indicates the seller's intent to do a 1031 exchange. So section number 2 refers to the seller's the property that they're going to exchange. So if the seller already has identified a property, then that's where you put that address right in there. If they have not, and they still have to look for a property, then you simply just check that box right there. Okay. Section number 3 just speaks about the cooperation between all parties. All parties are cooperating with the 1031 exchange. Section number 4 pertains to what happens if the seller cannot and does not locate and identify an exchange property. So this is a very important section. Okay, this is where I told you for the seller to choose. You don't want to choose for them. Okay, so if the seller chooses A, it indicates that the transaction shall close without extension of time for closing. So basically, the transaction has to close within the time frame of the contract. Okay, excuse me. Section number B, let me move this really quick. I can read. Section number B, pretty much if they check this box, it's allowing a certain amount of days as an extension. So if it goes over an escrow period, then this is where you would put an allocated amount of days that it can go over escrow. Okay. Section number C I think Michelle and I discussed this, and I think section C is probably going to be the most common use. Whereas if the transaction does not close on time, it pretty much everybody goes on their own way. So the deposit gets returned to the buyer, the transaction's canceled, and everybody goes their own way and stuff. Section D. If they were advised by their attorney or their accommodator to put some particular terms, or the seller just wants to put a clause in there, that's where he would put any additional terms there. Number 5 basically just goes over the indemnity, and then number 6 goes, if there's any additional terms, that's where your seller would put that information in there. Number 7 and number 8 is more of an advisory. So that even though it's considered an addendum, this form also serves as kind of like an advisory as well. So it goes over the details, not details, but some of the process of a 1031 exchange. And then number 8 is the scope of the duty of the broker duty. So this pretty much tells you that you're a real estate broker and agent. You're not an accommodator nor an attorney. So don't advise your client as one, and simply just do your duty and refer them to a person that's qualified to advise them and properly make a calculated decision. And then that's it. And have your seller sign it and date it. And then once it goes into escrow, the buyer will sign and date it, and you have fully executed seller intent to exchange. Okay, moving on. The buyer's intent to exchange addendum, and it's also referred to as a BXA. Now, this form is identical to the seller's intent to exchange. The only difference here is that this will be used by the selling agent when a buyer is intending to do a 1031 exchange when purchasing a home. So, excuse me. So this form you will use in conjunction with your RPA. On the RPA, I think it's what section? Section
4B.
4B. If you check the box on the RPA where it says buyer's intent to exchange an addendum, then this form will automatically be placed into your transaction if you're using the broker edition. Okay, so it's very important to use the Zip Forms broker edition. That way, all the forms will be added to your transaction and stuff. So this form, if again, there's the advisory in number 7 and number 8. This form would be used if your buyer has closed his 1031 exchange and the money is with the accommodator, or even if the buyer has still not closed his transaction but intends to close that transaction and utilize a 1031 exchange. Okay, so regardless if the transaction has closed or not, this is the form that you would use. All right, and then moving on to the next form, Michelle.
Oh, this is 4B. I'm sorry.
That's 4B right there. So that's where on the RPA on 4B, that's where you would check the box, and then the form that we just went over would populate into your transaction, and that's where you would fill it out. Again, that form, same as the seller's, have your buyer fill it out, the portions that pertain to the 1031 exchange. You could fill out the other portions, but have them fill it out, make sure that they understand it and they've been advised by someone that's qualified to do so. Okay. All right, moving on to the next form. This is a cooperating broker compensation agreement and escrow instructions. It's also referred to as a CBC. The form basically identifies the brokerages representing the buyer and the seller and the commissions due to each brokerage. This form is not going to be used very often. Typically, the commissions that are paid to the brokerages are listed on the MLS. But there are some instances where this form should be used to ensure that you get paid your commission. So if you are dealing with a property that's not listed on the MLS, or that is a reciprocal of the MLS, let's just say it's somewhere in San Francisco, right? That's where you would use this form to ensure that you are going to get your commission that you're entitled to, okay? Another instance is if the property is not on the MLS, for instance, a for sale by owner, okay? If you don't use this form, then you could not get paid. I mean, that's just basically what it is. You're not guaranteed to get paid. So by using this form, you're guaranteed to get paid, okay? There's another section right here on where it says management approval. It's very important if you check any of these boxes, 3B, 3C, 4, or 6. These are the boxes. If you click any of those forms, those boxes, you have to get management approval. Okay. If you go to the next page, Michelle, this is where you would come to Peter or myself, and then we would sign it. They will not pay your commissions unless this form is signed by the broker or the manager. Okay, so it's very important. So again, this form is not going to be used very often. Most of the agents, our agents, work within our MLS here, the CRMLS. But if you are, using the transaction is
Management approval.
the property is up north, or if it's not listed, this is the form that you would use. Okay. Michelle, do you have anything to add?
No, just if, like you said, that was well presented. If you're not a member of that MLS or it's not a reciprocal, make sure you're using the form. Yeah, very well done.
And
Yeah.
if you're not a part of that MLS, you're not.
Catherine, can you mute yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
That's
didn't-
okay. All
Yeah.
right, so let's, I'm gonna hand it over to Michelle so that she can go over some forms, and then we can move on to John Wax, and then we'll have a Q&A.
Okay, so we're gonna, agent requested to go over this sell a buyer's property, car form COP. So it's only included in your residential purchase agreement if you check the box. So if that is one of your contingencies, make sure you're checking the box to bring that into the transaction. So I just wanted to show you where it was. It's right here. Let's see. On page, I believe it's 2. Yeah. So if that's the case with your transaction, check the box. It should auto populate, and then you're going to need to fill it out. Now, this form, I've reread it several times. It's one of those types of forms that you're going to need to go step by step and read it. So, of course, you just fill out the top up here. That's fairly standard. So this agreement is contingent upon, and then you've got all these choices here. So the first box, it's going to default to the buyer entering into a contract for sale and closing escrow on their property. So right here, it's telling you if that's the case, then go on to section 2 and 4, paragraphs 2 and 4. But you have some other choices here. Only entering into a contract for the sale of the buyer's property, or C, close of escrow on the buyer's property, then it's bouncing you down to paragraph 4. And then you're going to fill in the escrow company and the escrow number, and you're going to give the seller's agent a copy of the information of the escrow evidence. Okay. So if you go step by step, it's a fairly easy form, but you just have to pay attention to all of the steps. So if you go to number 2, it's saying this applies here for 1A or 1B. So if you've let it default or you've checked B, the buyer has 17 days after acceptance to enter into a contract for the sale of their property. And then by the earlier of the time specified in 2A, if you haven't modified it, 17 days, or within 2 days after the buyer entering the contract, the buyer delivers the escrow evidence to the seller and escrow holder. So now we come down here. So these paragraphs are lined out for whatever happened in the top paragraph. I can see it could be a little confusing, but if you just remember, these paragraphs are lined out for whatever happened up here. So listing an MLS status of buyer's property, if 1A or B applies. So probably there's going to be a default contract. So the buyer has signed a listing agreement for the buyer's property then they're going to put in the listing brokerage, or if they have not done that, they're going to check this box. It gives you 3 days, or that can be amended. The buyer's property is or will be submitted to the MLS. Generally, all properties are going to be submitted to the MLS. There may be some exceptions. So they've left you a box to click if there is an exception, and it will not be submitted to the MLS in the geographical area where the buyer's property is located. Maybe you're selling something from way up north. Buyer shall deliver to seller evidence of both the listing and, if applicable, the listing MLS listing with 1 day after acceptance. So it doesn't give you a long time to respond. Now, remember, we're still looking here. It's only if you've checked one of these boxes or 1A is the default. So close of escrow on the buyer's property. Again, this is referring to the default or 1C. Let's go back up and look. A is right here, buyer entering into contract for sale and closing on escrow, or C, that they are already in escrow. So let's go back down here. I think I was here. 1A or C, status of buyer's property. Buyer agrees to keep the seller informed if there's any changes on the contract. They have 2 days after seller's written request, but no earlier than the applicable time removal. So that you would do a notice to perform to remove contingencies. So you can't jump the gun. You have to give them the appropriate time. But when you're ready, you can do a notice to perform. Cancellation of buyer's property. If the buyer's property is in escrow and either party provides a notice of cancellation, the buyer needs to disclose that to the seller within 2 days. Remember, there are single party cancellations. So if that's the case, also provide that one. So here is 7 on backup offers and the seller's right to require buyer to remove contingencies or cancel. So this is something to reread a few times. It does apply. So after acceptance, the seller has the right to continue to market this property and accept backup offers. Okay, so removal of buyer contingencies and proofs of fund. Unless paragraph 7C3 is checked, which is right here, no right to notify buyer. If the seller accepts a written backup offer and provides the buyer a copy of that signed offer, accepted backup offer within the time specified in 7C1 or 2, which is right here. Okay, seller has the right to give written notice to the buyer to remove this contingency of the sale of property, and remove their loan contingency if there is any, and provide a verification of sufficient funds to close escrow without the sale of their property. So the seller to notify the buyer of their use of this paragraph 7B, they can use this form to notify the buyer right down here. So this is the notice to remove buyer contingencies and provide proof of funds. Okay, so this form, you're kind of going back and forth. I can see why it can be a little confusing. So, but if you go step by step down the form, it becomes a little more easier. I've read it several times, but you just have to follow each step, each paragraph. Wait, does that apply? Is 1A checked, 1C, and then these paragraphs will make more sense. So time to give notice to remove contingencies. Seller shall have the right to invoke notice provisions in 7B, which is up here, 7B. So immediate right to notify buyer anytime after acceptance. So they could either leave it at the default, or they may want to go with the delayed right to notify buyer no earlier than 17 days after acceptance. Now, why would they maybe be attracted to 2? It could be because the other contract, they want to make sure they get through their inspections and contingency periods. So maybe the seller will want to delay the notice and keep this escrow going, or no right to notify. Seller shall not have the right to invoke the provisions of 7B right here during the term of the agreement. So if you're representing a buyer, a buyer's agent may want to check 3. So that's all stuff that you would need to talk to your clients about, explain the form to them, go step by step so that they're making a good decision on which boxes to check. You can explain it to them like I have, go step by step. So removal of contingency. This contingency can only be removed in writing, even if the buyer removes this contingency, unless buyer also performs all of the actions pursuant to 7B. Here's the clinchers. Seller retains the right to cancel this agreement under paragraph 9. So they're giving you all the steps here, or reasons that a buyer has a right to cancel this agreement, and also the buyer's right to cancel. And I'm going to jump to 11, time for performance of contract obligations. So the time periods in this agreement for inspections and all of those things line out with the RPA. This is only form for the contingency for the selling of the property. All of the other obligations, you're going to follow the time specified in the RPA unless you've checked this box on the day after buyer delivers to seller any of the following: escrow evidence, buyer's election. So if you check this box, that means it's being delayed. The day count won't start until these things happen, until there's escrow evidence, etc. So normally you would probably leave it to the default, depending on who you're representing. Buyer's deposit shall be delivered within time specified in the RPA, or here's a box you can check: within 3 business days after the buyer delivers to seller the escrow evidence, etc. Most sellers probably are going to want this to just remain the time clock ticking per the RPO rather than amending it here. So it depends on your seller, but make sure you go step by step and explain everything on this addendum to the best of your ability. If you have any questions, we're always here to help. The buyer and seller will each be signing this form. And remember, this is the notice if should you need to give a notice to the buyer to remove contingencies due to this form, and it's outlined in 7B, then the seller would sign here and date it, and you would send that to the buyer's rep. So I know that's a lot. If there's any questions on it, stick them in the chat box. I'll be happy to go over them with you at the end of the training. So seller's affidavit of non-foreign status, which we all call the FIRPTA. So each transferor needs their own, like if there's 2 transfers on a deal, then each needs their own FIRPTA. This is in accordance with the IRC 1445, which provides that a buyer of real property must withhold tax if the seller is a foreign person. So we have this done through escrow. So what you do here is the property address, the transfer's name, which would be the seller. Okay. So exemption claimed. So I, the undersigned, declare under penalty of perjury. So you have for an individual transfer. So they may be checking or may not. It depends on their status, obviously. But A, I'm not a non-resident alien for purposes of U.S. Income tax, or there's one for a corporation. So if they're claiming that exemption, either an individual or corporation, they'll be checking these boxes. So what happens on these forms is generally the seller is not going to want their Social Security and that out to the buyer's agent. So qualified substitute is what we use to take care of that. So a qualified substitute requires the seller to complete and provide a QS, we call it, is the CAR form, in paragraph 5, so that the information should be completed after the form is provided to the buyer. So you cannot provide this information to the buyer unless this box has been checked. So normally, agents, you're going to complete it all the way down and not fill out 5, because most sellers do not want this information disclosed to a buyer. So do not give them information with this on. However, fill out this form, get it signed by the transfer and the buyer, and let me come down to the QS. So this is the federal guidelines on the FIRPTA. So you're also going to get this ready for escrow. So you fill out the top. The qualified substitute, you can use a title company, attorney, or escrow. So I usually use escrow. So I'm going to put in my escrow company's name here after I filled out this for them. I'm going to put the escrow company's name. I'm going to put the seller's name here. And the qualified substitute will be the escrow company again, or whoever you select as your qualified substitute within the rules provided on this form. And then that qualified substitute is going to go ahead and sign this. Now, once you get this back, very important, have your buyer sign and acknowledge. So that means that the escrow company has the detailed data on with the social security number, address, and telephone number of the seller. So that's just them stating, hey, buyer, we do have this information. So you fill out the qualified substitute, send it over to escrow. I would do it. You can do it right away. And then once escrow has the information from the client, they will go ahead and sign and send it back to you. And then you'll ask your buyer to sign. So let me check the chat box. Did Peter or Ruben, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, Michelle, in regards to the not disclosing the personal information of the seller, like the social security number.
Yeah.
You can leave that blank because escrow is going to have
Yes.
escrow is going to have an SI anyways. So
Yeah, we don't fill this out because you cannot provide it anyway unless they authorized you to in 4B, and there's no seller that I've seen that's going to allow this information to go out. That's correct.
Right. And then
Yeah.
if escrow needed that, they can get it through the SI.
Yeah, they get it themselves. That's
Got it.
correct.
Michelle, on the FERPA, on your page 2, does both sellers' initials have to go there, or just the seller that this FERPA belongs to?
Wait a minute. On page 2?
Yeah, of the FERPA.
Oh, only who's ever on this FERPTA, because each seller will have their own FERPTA.
Okay.
Yeah. So these forms look a little challenging, but they're really not. It's just something that you need to get filled out for your file, you know, so that we can, for the IRC code 1445. Okay. So get that filled out because Anna is going to require it through the SkySlope system, correct, Anna?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So Michelle, just to reiterate what you just said, so these will always be one-sided executed documents, right? Not fully executed with both parties?
No, the transferor, they'll have, like if there was two individuals, they would each be having their own FERPTA.
Right.
But the buyer would be signing both FERPTAs. So each seller, if they separate sellers would have their own FERPTA, but the buyer would need to sign, if there was 2 FERPTAs from the seller, that the buyer would need to sign both of them.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions,
So
comments?
if there was five parties, then it'd be 5 different FERPTAs.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, because if you look here, the exemptions, because they're going to have to check individually, you know, or for a corporation, you know, would only probably have one if it was just a corporation. But if it's individual, they each need to certify right here this exemption claimed. Yeah.
Perfect.
And
Very good.
escrow will help you through these. These aren't, you don't have to be too worried. We'll help you, and escrow will finish it up for you. Any other questions? Comments? So I don't know if John's in yet. Ruben.
Yes, I'm here. Can you see
Oh.
me?
Yeah, I don't
I'm here.
have okay. So Ruben, did you want to move over to John? It's right at 10:30 when he was supposed to be here. So okay, John, you're going to talk about the free flood zone cert for lease residential leases.
Michelle, can you stop your share screen?
Yes. Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay. Good morning, Coldwell Banker George family. It's John Wax with Snap and HD Natural Hazard Disclosure Reports. And we have a free renter's report. It's a flood zone only report. It's required on leases for residential property, although you can use it for commercial as well. And the landlord must tell the client if the property is affected by flood zone. We do that in a single report, and the cost is free. You do get special pricing on the other reports, your residential, commercial reports. But I do want to remind you that you can get the reports As soon as you take a listing, you can even take it with you for your listing appointment, because it's so important. You have valuable information to show them that you're serious about representing them and helping them with their needs and getting their properties dealt with in a very consistent and timely manner. Because if you don't have these documents, sometimes there's a delay involved, and maybe you don't close escrow on time, or you lose out to another agent because they do have that information, or they're able to answer the questions. There is no charge unless escrow closes. The free renter's report is available to you. If you have questions regarding anything in the reports, please contact me. I've been doing this for over 28 years, and I get on a three-way call if you'd like to, or just consult back and forth, and we'll get it ironed out, make it understandable, so that you close your transactions much more smoothly. And all our reports are backed by $10 million of E&O that we step in the shoes to protect all parties. Anything else you want me to talk about?
Thank you, John. I just wanted to mention that prior to knowing I can get them free, we had paid for a couple of flood certs, so it's nice to know that we can get them free. So take advantage of that. Talk to John if you're involved in a lease, a residential lease,
Or any property. I'm here
or any
to,
properties for your NHD needs.
exactly. And you get special pricing. Your first one's half price on regular ones, and then after that, you get a $15 discount. Okay, so I'm here for you. I would get the premium and order them even on listing appointments. Once you get the listing, obviously you should get it, because like I said, you want to be ready to represent them, deal with the FHDS car form if it is in there. And we actually tell you in 5 places in the report, the property's in a fire zone that may require the use of the form. And then if it's in the report, then you deal with it. You have questions with it, you contact me. I'll walk you through it to find out if the transaction is one that requires it. And I'll talk about it on another time. We can discuss when we do disclosures about the FHDS, or I can do a training for your office. But like I said, you should use the people as a part of your team, because the more valuable members of the team that you add to you makes you look stronger. And you'll also be able to answer questions that clients may have that, you know, you may not feel comfortable. Remember, you are the real estate professional. I'm the NHD tax, environmental, and FHDS expert. Use your experts. If you have a question regarding, I'm an example, title, you call Nancy. If you have a question regarding warranty, you call one of your warranty reps. These are the people that you should align yourself with as a team, so that you are stronger as a person. Even if you're not a team, you look like a team because you have the right people in place.
Well, thank you, John. And then Christine Fenn, we'll send you, she's asking how she can get the renter's report. We'll send you John's contact information. You can contact him direct.
Absolutely. Or just email me your information and say in the subject line, you want a renter's report, the property address and APN number. I'll happy to run anytime.
Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate
You're
you
welcome.
stepping in.
My
Perfect.
pleasure. Anytime. We'll do some more of these. And guys, have a great weekend. And gong hei fat choi.
Bye-bye, John.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Again,
Very
Peter,
good.
so sorry for your loss. So sorry for your loss. I didn't mention that,
That's
but
okay. That's all right. Thank you, John.
take care. You're welcome. Okay,
What-
bye.
Bye-bye.
What did he say, Peter?
Gong hei fat choi.
What is that?
I hope you
Or
have a
wait.
lot of money coming in.
That's right.
Ah,
And then
we need
gong
that.
si
We need
fat
that
choi.
for
Gong si
Gong
everybody.
si
fat
fat
choi.
sai. Gong si fat sai. And then
Gong hei
guess
fat
what?
choi, yeah.
I have extra good luck because at the West San Gabriel Association, you know, they have the Lunar New Year. I was turning my back to the lion. The lion put his head over mine.
Oh,
And
nice.
I posted that. I posted that on Instagram and Facebook. So check it out.
that's good luck when it
Do
does.
they say that's good luck. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So at least maybe I got that coming.
So this
We'll
is
see.
your year, John. This is your
This
year.
is my year. I'm hoping, and I'll see most of you on Monday then. Okay. Take care.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Have a great one. All right. Bye. Bye,
Peter.
everyone.
Peter,
Yeah.
anything you want to add?
No, that's all right. I'm fine.
Okay. All right, we'll send this recording out to everybody. Again, there's gonna be a link there if you wanna, educate yourself a little bit about the 1031 exchange. And that'll be sent out momentarily. All right? Don't forget
Okay,
about the commercial class. If you guys are interested in the commercial classes, email me, okay? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you.
You're
next-
welcome.
Everybody have a
Wonderful
good
weekend.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You as well.
Are we gonna have a Q&A if they need it, or?
Let me stop recording.